welcome to session 5 of Laudato Si. This is our last session, and congratulations for this long journey to Lent. Maybe I should say, look, on this journey to Easter, the autumn solstice is important. The autumn solstice was a couple of days ago, on the 21st of March. Now, Easter is determined partly by the solstice, but also it's the Sunday after the first full moon that occurs after the solstice. So look, I don't know whether you can get your head around this, but look, we're past the solstice, and the full moon is growing. It's about a 3/4 moon at the moment. And so I think the full moon will be after it will be after Palm Sunday. And then the Sunday after the full moon, this has been forever and forever, will be Easter Sunday. And that was, there have been changes in calendars and so on in the different cultures, religious cultures, but that was the way that the Jewish people had of marking the Passover as well. So look, Easter, it's amazing. It's sort of in tune with the universe, well, with our solar system at least. It's the tilt of the earth, and its position around the sun, and the position of the moon relative to the sun and the earth. And that's when we mark Easter. So I'm saying this because Laudato Si, it's about caring for our common home, but it's even wider. It's about our solar system, our galaxy, our universe, which for us, time began 13.8 billion years ago, the scientists say. That's time, but there's what God exists before time. Okay, so here we go. So look, before we look at any texts, so I suggest we just close our eyes and become present here at this moment. Just with your eyes closed, relax your body. Notice if there are any tension, stress points in it. Just relax your body. Just pay attention to your breath without changing it. Be aware of the seat that you're sitting on. The floor. And the presence of Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. And then God's presence within yourself, within the people who are here, and with every created thing in this building, this church, this shelter, this worshipping place. So God's present. We've said this prayer. Let's open your eyes. We've said this prayer previously.
You want to sit down?
Okay.
You want to see?
Okay. Yep. Oh, here we go. We've said this prayer together previously, but let's go through it a little more slowly tonight. And we'll take it in turns to read. I think it's generally in 2 lines, or it's in stanzas anyway. So, and if you don't want to read it out, just pass it on to the next person. So perhaps if I begin. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures.
You embrace with your tenderness all that exists.
Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty.
Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one.
O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes.
Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction.
Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth.
Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognise that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light.
Thank you for being with us each day.
Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love and peace.
Amen.
Amen.
So I thought initially of trying to summarise where we've come from in the Laudato Si. I found it impossible. So just taking some elements, like you yourself, each one here, and everything that's around us was created in love. And this universe is God's first revelation. God manifesting himself in a material way. Pope Francis, in the 11th article, recalls his patron saint or as a pope. And he says, St. Francis saw creation as a window through which he also saw God. And that's apparent in that canticle of the sun. He's seeing and rejoicing and in all these creatures and he sees God, and maybe God is seeing his creation through Francis's eyes as well, and God is in a sense seeing creation through our eyes, through my eyes. And our wish is that we love it and see creation in the way that God does. Tony, in the first, I think it was the very first presentation, just recalled to us that we're called to love God, to love one another, and to care for this earth, our common home. And that perhaps has been sort of, well, it's been a revolution for me. I thought the Christian message was to love God and to love our neighbour as we love ourselves. And that's the Hebrew commandment as well. But implicit in that call is the call to care for the earth. We don't live apart from the earth. Everything Pope Francis keeps reiterating is connected. And in the second article of the Encyclical, Francis says, the earth, which is our common home, cries out to us in pain. Okay? And he sort of goes on to elucidate that. The earth, our common home, cries out to us in pain. Well, what is happening?
There you go. We've got
Oh.
transitions.
Oh, okay, wait a moment. I just...
My heretic.
Oh, okay, look, this is... So, we've been listening to the prophets very often in the first reading, all the way through the masses of this Lenten season. And they speak about, well, they imply a change of mind, the way we think. Wow. They imply more explicitly a change of heart. And then they ask for a change in our behaviour. This is the prophets. So that's our focus tonight. We've read a lot of material. We've thought a lot of thoughts. We watch the TV. We read the newspapers. We've read the encyclical. Okay, so there's a call to action, and this is it's covered in the last 2 chapters of the encyclical. Oh, look, I do not know what I'm doing here.
You're doing pretty well so far.
Doing really well.
Okay. Look, if it's action that's being that we're being called to by Pope Francis, but sort of many voices, many prophets in the world. So the questions would be, what can our nation do? And maybe that implies, what can governments do? Our national government, our state governments, our local governments. And we can be part of that. They're a little bit removed. So narrowing it down, and maybe we're more powerful here. What can we do? What can we do? And it's as a parish, okay? So, as a parish of St. Aloysius, as a school, as a family, as a business, as an organisation. But what can we do, in whatever communities I'm in? And lastly, what can I do? So, look, hopefully, when we leave tonight, we'll have some idea about what we might do and what I can do, and a way forward so that this night is not the end. This will carry forward into something else. Okay. Now, look, I don't know how many of you have got a copy of this. Can somebody, look, instead of going in turns, you can just, out of the blue, someone start with number 176, if you can find that. Oh, notice that sometimes there's a little part in black, like number 177 is in black. It's after the first sentence. So somebody start with 176, and then somebody else 177, anyway, through and including number 180.
We have spoken of the need for the international community to come together to take serious action, but there is also a need on the national and local levels for this.
The chief way a nation can control polluting technology is through law. And such laws are a growing trend within nations.
Politics also plays a role, but politicians are often sponsored by the various sectors of the economy that need regulation. It's very difficult for politicians to enact far-reaching laws whose effects are beyond their time in office.
Local people can have an impact through movements such as energy cooperatives.
We do not lose hope because much can indeed be done on the local level. People can be taught to conserve energy, consume less, and avoid goods known to cause pollution, manage waste better, protect certain species, and practice ecologically sound agricultural methods. We can build infrastructure, develop markets, support small business and farmers, and through non-government organisations of local people manage resources ranging from water to forest to land.
Thank you. So, oh, here we go.
I'm sacked.
So you have a chance later on. Okay. So look. So this is the heading I've got here is action at a local level, and the Pope has said, look, it's really difficult for politicians to enact far-reaching laws whose effects are beyond their time in office. Look, we know that. Okay. And that's not the only, it's not just the short time in office they have, there are lots of other reasons. Okay. It's difficult for politicians. And maybe some of you felt dismayed and disappointment at the result of the last election. Maybe some of you thought, the result was perfect and it was good. But it's difficult. Politicians have a difficult life. So, but the Pope goes on to say, and this is all a quote from that we've just read out. We don't lose hope. I felt like losing hope. We don't lose hope because much can indeed be done on the local level. Don't leave it to the politicians, to the governments. We can do something ourselves. People can be taught to conserve energy, consume less, avoid goods known to cause pollution, manage waste better, protect certain species, practice ecologically sound agricultural methods. Okay, so let's stay with the text for a bit more. So go to 210. Put up your hand. Okay, so it's 210 and then somebody 210 and then the black letter somebody for 211.
Actually, let the next person. Environmental education is the answer. We need an ethics of ecology, one that pierces through the myth of consumerism and moves towards a more transient view. Environmental education forms a human heart for selfless ecological decisions. Small daily actions by many produce a great effect, such as turning down the heat, avoiding one-use plastics or paper, reducing water use, recycling garbage, no longer wasting food, using public transportation, planting trees and flowers, or reducing electrical use?
Thank you. So, this is still actions at a local level, and it applies to the communities that we're in, but also perhaps personally. So this is just quoting from the text again. Small daily actions by many produce a great effect, such as turning down the heat with our air conditioners, avoiding one-use plastics or paper, reducing water use, recycling our garbage, no longer wasting food, using public transportation, planting trees and flowers, and reducing electrical use. So look, this is a chance for us just to share with each other a little in groups of 2 or 3 or 4. So, look, you don't come here as novices in caring for the earth. You know, like the fact that you're here sort of indicates to yourself, but to everyone else, that you do care for the earth. And you do it in practical ways. Now, so I've been part of a couple of groups that have where this question has been presented. And look, in listening to the other people, like in the 2 or 3 forums that I was in, you know, wow, you do that? Wow, okay, how do you do that? So here's a chance to just to think about what you already do, but maybe you just take it for granted. You know, everybody does this, but it's probably not true. And we might be able to educate each other a bit. So yeah, I'd say in groups of 2 or 3, if possible, so that everyone gets a chance to speak, and just listen to each other. Okay, for say 3 or 4 minutes.
What do? I am a bit of a freak when it comes to light switches. I'm constantly turning lights off when we don't need them. The other thing I do too is, if we've got to use the car on a trip and you need to have the car, what I do is I think, we've got to do 2 or 3 things while we've got the car out. So you do multiple activities with the car.
Listen, I'm comfortable here. I don't need to sit on a seat. If you're comfortable with this. Sorry.
Where we live, and like 3 weeks ago, between a group of us, we planted 50 new shrubs and plants.
And they're going well?
Yes, well now with the rain. Perfect timing.
There you go. What do you do?
Probably not nearly as much as Frank at all, but I feel guilty that I use the car for short distances. So recently I've tried to even walk to the Rockpool Mall or walk up to the mall, and it's good, you know. So I want to. It's a bit of a walk. Yeah, because I'm a slow walker. So it is a fair walk, and I am a slow walker. But I'd like to try and start to do that more often. And I like to, and I'm trying to cook more vegetarian meals. And actually John knows more vegetarian dishes than me probably, but I'm trying to learn more, and I say team up with my sister-in-law at times and we do a meal together. Yeah, so it's just for me to learn, because I'm not very innovative as a cook, so it's me to learn more vegetarian
with the
dishes.
Glass, what we're doing
I'm talking to John all the time about us when our leakages are solved, getting the solar, because we've got the solar wiring,
we're putting them in,
but we haven't got
into a garbage bin.
we haven't actually put
separate
it into
garbage
action
bin
yet because we've still got
and
leakages
someone we know
that have to be addressed. But I want to do that as
is more
soon
than
as
happy
possible.
to take it to the stations
Yeah, I
where
do
they get
similar
money
things
for
to
them,
what
but,
you do there.
It's helping with recycling the glass.
I put solar
taking
panels on
another
my roof and I put a
energy.
battery in the garage, so we're essentially off the grid. So I think that does a bit, and I'm like you, I'm turning off light switches, and yeah, I hate wasting electricity because I know where it comes from. Yeah, mindful of the packaging that I buy. Is it got the recycling label? Is it more cardboardy? Is it biodegradable? I'm trying to do a little bit more with the meat thing. It's hard, but maybe one less meal a week that might have meat, because I have learnt through this program
It's even things
the CO2 that comes from
some surprising
cattle,
things like
grazing, that sort of thing.
sauce bottles. I'm not sure of that.
What's
But
the other thing I'm
anyway,
doing? I guess I'm trying to
discovered-
educate others.
So
That's
there's
my job as a teacher. So I've started an
soft
environmental
drink.
group to inspire, hopefully, the next
reasonable amount
generation of
beer.
students to do something in their own
and,
lives. And they're very excited about that.
So we have
And
about
that
half
encourages
a
me, because I feel like,
garbage bin each week. and
my
then
words
go-
are hopefully doing something to inspire a new generation to care for the earth and do something about it.
Plan to replace
I think that's very powerful to encourage young people.
We don't have a
I
compost
really love
yet,
that
and I'm
idea.
trying to figure out
I changed
size
the
that's big
electricity
enough.
supplier to
because every
which
time
the
you
name
know,
I
cut the
suppose, but
leaves
they're
off
connected with
cauliflower or the outside leaves of a
the
lettuce,
Snowy Mountains scheme.
and you know you do your beans or whatever.
Green energy. They
Oh, your scraps from
provide green
carrots and
energy.
things. That's
That's
all
right.
energy.
You pay a bit more for it, but you
And
can.
it's good
So I switched
It's energy.
suppliers,
So-
especially when I found out
No,
ADL
so
was the
I'm really
largest
sweet
emitter. So you can
Oh,
do that too, and of course at a parish, since we're encouraging the parish to go to solar power with panels.
a bucket of balloons, you know, you go buy them, put them in,
So
and then that speeds up to the...
So it's touching, it's on the earth.
What do you do?
What have you been doing?
It's on the earth.
Walking more?
Because the worms go in
Yeah,
short of
yeah.
One thing I've done, every so often you can just lift the lid off and then shovel the parents
We've got that as well as a compost.
No, we just have that.
They are huge. They're one of the biggest draws of electricity is electrical hot water systems. Instantaneous gas is still emitting, but it's not as emitting anywhere near what you do with an electric hot water system.
Well, that's the front.
Correct.
Not filling a whole tank full of water, but only using a little bit throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a little thing to do, but it makes sense at a domestic level to do things like that.
You buy shoes today and you get all boxes and that, and I say, can you keep the boxes and the paper bags? I'm just happy to walk out with the shoes. You know, like you can cut down on the packaging. You can look at that.
Schools produce
Produce lots of boxes and packaging. It comes in every day. My wife's work is sending out fishing tackle and stuff all over Australia, so they need boxes. So rather than crushing it down, putting it in our recycling bins, my car gets filled every day. It's a bit of a pain in the neck. I just said to her recently that I'm going to send you an invoice for all this free boxing that we give you, this boxing we give you. She said to me, I'm going to be sending you an invoice for taking your rubbish away. Let's be real about what this is.
And Fran's very strict on the dryer, so I
On
don't
boxes.
use the
And
dryer.
now that the supermarkets have moved
Otherwise
to
she'll stop it and take the things out.
We don't have one.
multi-use plastics and so on, I find I don't necessarily need to take plastic bags. I take a few boxes with me to the supermarket. People think it's a little bit odd. I come in with my 2 boxes and I pop them into the trolley, and then I fill up one box, fill up another box, and you put the box up onto the thing to get them all scanned. But it's
Material bags instead of some plastic, but I always use the same one, so now I never. The thing you've got to be wary of is when you have fruit, you're kind of intended to put that into another small bag, but I even have it loose, and they just put it on the weighing machine, and it's providing you put it in a separate bag, it's okay, but you don't have to have a plastic bag.
I think you can stay where you are. Just stay where you are.
Yeah, there are lots of little
just stay where you are. Yep. Okay. Just very quickly, there may be some things in common or some things that jumped out from your discussion. There are 4 groups, I think. Could somebody say something about their...
Well, I just said that we have a worm farm which has all our scraps. And we have water tanks, we use our water, and I'm always planting flowers.
Right, okay. Yeah. This one.
I don't like talking out loud, but anyway, I was just saying about, I met a group of women who said pick 3 pieces of plastic up a day when you're walking around to help the environment, and that's the pool ladies that swim it. Yeah, and I've been inspired by them, so I do that every day too, so thank you.
And this group?
Tony inspired us with her practice of reducing her waste in her red lid bin, also by the use of a worm farm. And also she doesn't have a clothes dryer, so that she's been quite an inspiration there. And we're looking to install solar, so we're doing that quite soon. So, and Mary uses the clothesline. She goes down 3 flights. How many flights of stairs?
6 or 7.
No. To use the clothesline.
Okay. Thanks. Hi, right. This group over here. This group.
Yeah, we're doing similar sorts of things, and as you said, all these little things add up to hopefully make a big difference for the earth. I have connected solar panels to my home. I put a battery in, so we're effectively off the grid, and it's nice to know that we're not taking electricity off the grid, and using electricity is being produced through a coal power station that's emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. So it's made a big difference, actually.
So thank you for that. So look, our next, this is a different sort of activity. Once I've finished speaking, you can form into 2 groups. There'll be probably lots of noise and lots of discussion, and it will be difficult to reach a decision if there are 8 to 10 people in each group. But look, just go with it. Do the best you can. So look, I've got 8 actions for each group. Like it might be eat a plant-based fruit diet, use LED bulbs at home, replace your typical car with electric, and so on. It goes down. There are 10 activities. I wonder, could you place the action that has the least effect in reducing climate change at the top? Okay, maybe it's, this is not on the list, but it might be sleeping, okay? That probably doesn't save, much carbon dioxide reduction in comparison with your waiting.
Turn the lights on.
Well, just stay with one. Okay, so you'd put that at the top because it has the least effect. And then, say just suppose it's not in this list, but suppose it was build a coal-fired power station. This one would be, it would have the least, it wouldn't be at the top. It would be at the, it would be at the bottom. The coal-fired power station that you've invested in is at the bottom. Okay, so look, because there are 10 and you're trying to do this in a group, look, I suggest you first of all try to sort the 10 items into low impact. That's, they'd go at the top. And the middle impact, and then the high impact. Don't build a coal-fired power station. That would go in the high impact at the bottom. And then once you've got the three groups, then you can, within those groups, you can sort the others. Okay. So look, you've got to.
What we're going to do at the end is I'm going to give you each group a bit of blue tack, and you're going to put yours down. This half, you're going to be on the right hand side. We're going to be on the left hand side, and you're going to give us the answers, and we'll see if we're right.
So look, you've got maybe if you've got 5 minutes to do this, about 5 minutes, and if you finish before that, you can put them up on the board. So, there are only 2 groups. Oh, okay. So maybe over here, maybe join this group. They seem to be smaller in number. Listen, put them on the floor so that maybe, yeah.
Or even my chair, is that big enough?
And if they were put here, sort of facing that way, everyone could see them. Yeah.
These are all activities, so we're rating them for minor impacts on the planet to things that make a major impact.
You put in your penny's worth of okay.
Right.
Which is the worst thing then?
Not big guys, surely.
Boys translating
About the environment, not your tummy.
A plant diet is for cows and sheep, not for humans.
Actually, hang on a minute. Yes, the question says, what is the least? Okay, by avoiding it. Isn't that the most?
No. So look. Just suppose you like by having one light in your room, in your whole house.
Yeah.
Okay, that would go at the top of the list because it's not going to save very much, is it?
Yeah,
but and
that
building.
Says avoid.
Well,
transatlantic flight.
Oh, I see.
That'd be tough on your own.
See, that would be up there.
Look at all that.
Okay. Oh yeah. Forget the avoid. Forget the avoid.
Okay, forget the avoid. Taking a transatlantic flight. Tops. All right. Next. Letting car free. The middle or this end?
Should hang wet clothes, not dry clothes. Live car free. You're not going to be joking.
Renewable energy.
Where does that go? Right at the top?
Right.
Replace a typical car with a hybrid. Somewhere top to middle. Yeah.
That really makes the advantages of war even more.
Recycle.
These are the favourites.
They're the best things to do.
They're the best, they're the least best. Wash clothes in cold water. They should be up there. There seems to be more up that end than down here.
We've got to get the order.
So gradually move that away from John.
What does he
Would that save much?
We've got the card here.
Okay, you've got 1 minute to go.
We're just putting up.
You've done it. Well, you've done it. Okay. Okay.
I hope we pass.
Wash clothes in cold water. Not too many don't go.
There's a bit of discussion about the impact of some of the actions.
Hang dry clothes. Wet clothes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Phil.
You know what they mean.
Dry the clothes on the line.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm used. The bringing the one line at a time. I have not ever done that before. Anyway.
This is an advantage for the future, really presenting this.
Yeah.
Without having two laptops running back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a learning for all of us. Okay. Is this group finished now?
What are you putting them up?
Oh, well, let's help. Okay, here we go.
So they're the bottom.
Okay, this is the next one. Okay.
Still debating on it.
Hip. Next one.
How are we going?
Well, okay, yeah, let's stick it at the bottom. Well,
What's your third last?
Yeah.
Plant-based diet, much lower than us, carb-free, and avoid one transatlantic flight. Pretty good.
Okay. Here we go. Here we go. So look, thanks for that. Doesn't matter what, in a sense, what the result. Oh, so there was discussion about maybe the value of it is in the discussion, and maybe the directions weren't clear. Well, maybe not. Okay. So look. So these are the two groups. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. So look, just looking at the top and bottom, they're saying, one group's saying, use LED bulbs at home. That will have the least helpful effect on the environment. It's a good thing to do, but it's not going to save very much emissions. And they're saying if you live car-free, that's going to make a big impact, and it's going to be very helpful to the air. Okay, so this group says use renewable energy at home. It's not going to have much effect, much beneficial effect, and avoid a transatlantic flight. Is that going to have a big saving on, or a small saving? Okay, so let's look at what these are measured by the Wins and Nichols 2017, the Environmental Research Letters. I guess it's an academic paper. Just have a look at this. and your group. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does the eating plant-based diet save emissions? Get rid of cows, is that the reason?
Yes.
Some cows.
So eat a plant-based. Okay. The question is.
How does that affect emissions? Is it just the cows farting, if I may use it?
Yeah. So
2 weeks, when I did my presentation in that week, I talked about this topic, and it's not this end, it's that end. If cows, cattle, all of that class were a country, they would be the third largest emitter of CO2 on the planet, with 2 other countries ahead. I imagine that would be, we could guess what they probably would be. The third would be that one.
So in New Zealand, I think 60% of their CO2 emissions, this is from transport and manufacturing, from energy production, coal-fired power stations or oil-fired, but 60% of all emissions come from agriculture. 60, because they've got, they've got a very ambitious emissions target in New Zealand, but because the agricultural the agricultural population is very large and they're dependent on it. Agriculture's been excluded. Okay. In New Zealand at the moment. So let's.
What's interesting is your top one, the renewable energy app. Do you think had much impact on the planet? What was you thinking there? Like my electricity bill for a little while there before I put the solar panels on was very quickly heading up to about $1,200 a quarter. Got a swimming pool, and I discovered very quickly a swimming pool is a massive user of electricity. We've got it down to basically 0, and then on the electricity bill it shows you how much CO2 you were creating or adding to the environment at the $1,200 bill down to 0, or I'm putting nothing into the environment. So, yeah,
one of those is me. They haven't thought about nuclear. I mean, there's no CO2. It's dirt cheap, and it's clean. And they've now found a way to use the renewable, and they're very small. So,
I think it's politics on that one.
Thought of nuclear power station?
You can't build it in 4 years.
What's that?
You can't build it in 4 years.
In a parliamentary
You can build these nuclear power stations in about 2 years now. It's the wiring back to Sydney and Melbourne that takes the time.
Is there any waste from that?
No, not anymore. There used to be, but there's got to be some.
There's
reused
radioactive waste that's got to be
But unfortunately, there's some political parties here that are tolerant.
So look, let's just, to sum up, let's go through these. So look, all these are good things, and they're, together they add to an appreciable saving and expression of our care for the environment. But using LED bulbs at home doesn't save all that much. Hang drying clothes, important again, but not for a typical household, not very much. Recycling, we all do this to one extent or another. Saves a bit. Washing clothes in cold water rather than hot saves a bit. So, and then replacing a typical car with a hybrid car, not an electric, but a hybrid. Look at that. It saves an appreciable amount than washing clothes in cold water. Eating a plant-based diet. So the savings are in the emissions from the sheep and the cattle. There's also to make pastures, you've got to cut down forests. look, we're still doing that at an immense rate in New South Wales and Queensland particularly. Okay, so...
it's also the amount of grain we use to feed our cows to produce 1 kilo
of meat.
Protein, as opposed to using grains that are protein rich. So the food would feed India, but we're feeding a small amount of cows to feed New Zealand. Yes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also that side of it.
So this is...
The amount of grain we use to feed cows means many a person on earth goes without being able to have the grains to sustain life.
So, can I ask a question then? Well, what happens then to the cows? Are they supposed to become extinct and farmers like, I mean, God put cows on this earth for a reason too. So,
no, they're not talking about, they're just talking about mass agriculture. I saw a documentary on this here in the United States. So I just flipped across on SBS the other night, or ABC, a documentary, and they just show these farms that had hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of cows in very confined spaces that are producing large amounts of CO2. It's almost inhumane to have animals living that way. So we're not looking at eliminating a species of animal, but we are choosing to
your point's really interesting one. Like, you can't do it, or if you did it overnight, people's lives would be destroyed. So you make a transition. If you close, if your aim is to close coal-fired, oil-fired power stations, don't do it overnight. Maybe that was the impression like the Labor government gave in the last election, and because you've got to think of the whole, and you've got to think of the workers and the families of the workers and so on. So you make a planned transition to what.
So Germany took 30 years from the first time they decided to move away from their coal-fired power plants to other forms of renewable and nuclear energy. 30 years. The talking, the redesigning, the transitioning, the re-educating, the relocating. 30 years.
So moving on, like replacing a typical car with an electric. Now, so that's quite a big saving there. News item in the paper today was that look, government regulations can support this or inhibit it. At the moment, you cannot buy the cheap at $50,000 Volkswagens that are on sale in large numbers in Europe. We can't, because of government regulations, imposts, I don't know what they are, they can't be purchased in Australia.
Luxury contact.
Anyway, that's use renewable energy at home. Look, this is making a really big impact. If you install the solar, as some people have done, if our parish, our schools were to do that, if they used renewable energy, solar power, a very big impact. Wow! Look, in comparison with these ones, a transatlantic flight, it takes almost 6 hours, but a flight from Sydney to Perth takes four and a quarter hours. Okay, but so a transatlantic flight, it's a bit further than going from Sydney to Perth, but it's not a return flight, it's just one flight. So look, any plane travel that we do is pretty huge. Look at that. This is having an electric car for a whole year, because this is a year. So this is just one transatlantic flight in a year, and that much, there's that much emissions.
Well, if you did a return flight, you'd just double that line.
Yeah. Yeah, the return, yeah. And then...
see our relatives, so...
I know. Who's been on a flight in the last 12 months?
I'm going on one tomorrow.
I'm so jealous.
But you can offset. Sometimes they allow you when you purchase your ticket, you can offset some of the money.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And then living car-free. This means going by public transport, walking, okay, biking. And again, Nolene? Nolene's position is, well, you make, maybe in all these things, you can make a transition. You don't need to go from, whatever you're doing at the moment, in one
But nor do you need to feel guilty if because you have family in Ireland, that you make that flight as your mother ages. Nothing on this list should make anybody feel guilty about the choices they make. This is not a guilt trip, that list.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So look, the next, are you surprised? So we've covered that, I think. And so, the phrase living the change. So the group in living the change. In actually living towards being a more sustainable lifestyle in terms of preserving the planet, this group suggests, well, look, just narrow it down a bit. Do something that's possible, not something that's impossible in your life. And look at just 3 things, like transportation, your diet, and energy efficiency. So I'll just go back to here again. So look, some of these are energy, like the LED bulbs.
Can I just make a comment? Someone might have done the top 4 in their normal day life. Well, if you add those 4...
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Although, no, this is a year, in a year. It is in, see, it's got down annual climate savings. Yeah. So it's in a year. So it's having a year of saving, but just making one transatlantic flight.
You're still right,
yeah.
Because COVID.
So some of these are transport, some are diet, and some are the way energy's produced. Okay. So, all right, and okay. So look, at this point, it's quite wonderful. And by the way, I omitted, Father James, to welcome you and to thank you so much for supporting this Lenten program and for coming each night. That's just wonderful. With Father James's support and the support of the social justice group, who have sort of diverse interests, there's a new nuclear group in the parish has been formed, and I'll let people from the group speak about that. So maybe I don't want to take their time. So look, the very next one, and it's almost the last thing I'll say. It's Pope Francis keeps talking about the common good as against individualism and consumerism. And I hear the Prime Minister say, but I think if Bill Shorten or Anthony Albanese was Prime Minister, they could well say the same thing. They say, look, we will do what's best for Australia. They will do what's best for me. blow the rest of the world, we will do what's best for me. Okay, or I can say, a state premier will say, I will direct that we do what's best for my state. There's big fights over that. Maybe we will say, I will do what's best for my family and blow what's happening around me, or more narrowly still, look, and you hear people saying this on TV. Look, it's my right. It's my right. I can whatever I choose to do, that's my right. I will do what's best for me. Okay, and it doesn't matter what effect this has on anyone else. People with masks were saying that, and probably they're saying this about vaccinations. I will do what's right. It doesn't matter what else, what effect this has on other people. People with guns, perhaps saying the same thing. I need protection. I need a machine gun or something to protect myself. Okay, so it's the common good over the individual. The profits is the organisation, the shareholders and the top brass, not the workers or the people who buy the goods or whatever. If I can see a profit on the bottom line, that's it. That's it. Right. Okay, where are you? We've got two speakers, and then we've got a final hymn, and that's it.
Okay, so in the social justice group, four of us, Chris and John, Mark and myself so far, have formed what we call the St. Aloysius Earth Care Group. And so we're part of the social justice group. We just have a focus trying to put into action some of these things that we're working on. So we thought our mission was caring for our common home, leading to individual and parish action in the spirit of Laudato Si. So we see that now we've completed our Lenten sessions. We're trying to put into action simple personal response. What can I do? And how can we be supported in doing that, in taking small steps in our lives that are achievable? So that was our basically thinking. And so the next slide, Phil. So it just so happened that both Phil and I had a call from Alice Karwadine a couple of weeks ago. And Alice is a young teacher in a Catholic high school in Brisbane. And Alice is passionate about this issue of living the change. And she actually is living the change. She, one Lent, decided she would try and lower her emissions. And she's tried really hard to work on it. And she works with young people, and she runs many workshops, and as Phil can tell you, she speaks on Catholic Earth Care, and she's very well known. She's only in her 20s, I'd say, but very passionate and very encouraging too. So she's actually coming to Sydney on the 8th of April, and she would like to have a meeting in the parish meeting room from 3 to 5 to have an introductory worship. She would share her story and give us some really good guidelines as to how to run these gatherings ourselves. So we might decide to meet once a fortnight or once a month. I don't know, it depends on who comes and what the needs are. And the basic idea is to encourage each other. It's a welcoming and encouraging gathering. It's not judgmental, it's to accept and welcome and encourage each other, so we might take these small steps collectively and encourage each other to do that. So this really gathering with Alice on the 8th of April is really for those who enjoy the Lenten Program and who would like to learn how to live out the words of Pope Francis in the Laudato Si. Or if you didn't attend the Lenten sessions, that's okay. It's for anyone who's interested in living out the faith through helping creation. And after this initial meeting, our idea would be to have regular meetings where we can gather in small groups to have a chat about how we're going and encourage each other on the journey. We know everyone's very busy, so we'll be very realistic about it. It's an encouraging thing, you know what I mean? It's meant to be welcoming, it's meant to be encouraging. And also to reach out to young people, and Alice sent me an email a few days ago, and it's a lovely letter to young people to invite them as well. So I sent that on to Kathy in the parish office, who sent it on to some young people, and sent it to the high schools as well.
Because I think in that point, Pope Francis's point is education, and I compliment Fran and the group for taking the next step with our Earth Care movement, in the sense of offering people a chance to learn more about and do more.
I'll pass things, Frank, and I'm going to pass this on to Chris. But before I do, I've got a sheet of paper there. So if you think you're interested in attending this gathering, or even in finding out more about it, if you don't mind, if you could just put your name and email address, or if you don't use the computer, your phone number.
We need to know what size hall we're going to have.
We need to know how many sweets we need to have, because we'll have some refreshment.
Coffee and
Yes.
a nice snack.
All
low carbon. Yeah, anyone who wants to sign up, you're all most welcome. It's just taking the next step from tonight's conversation. Let's hear from someone who's been really trying to walk this walk as well as talk the talk. Let's see what changes she's made in her life and what sort of impact does she feel like she's having on the planet, and what can we learn from her experience. So I'm really looking forward to meeting her and hearing her story. So it's a bit of a conversation, really.
Shall we pass it round? I think.
By all means. And no obligation to put your name to it. And it'll be here a couple of Sundays as well if you want to sign up on the table. This came out, this next bit is a kind of a pivot here. This came from our social justice meeting that we had a few weeks ago, where we had a conversation around a letter that John Fitzgerald provided us about his thoughts on this topic about Laudato Si, taking action at a parish level and really actioning that forward. So he had two sort of thoughts. Look, how do we reduce our impact on the planet and work to a sustainable future as a parish? And then two, what effective actions can we take to support the theological teaching of Pope Francis in Laudato Si here at St. Aloysius? So those were his two thoughts. After your support, oops, wrong. So some of his ideas were hand out that Lenten carbon fast. You've seen that. We didn't do that, so maybe that could be something we could do next year.
I did it week 1 in this group.
Fantastic. So we'd like to probably hand that out a little bit more globally. Undertake, now this is a really good one, this second point he came up with, is undertake an audit, like an energy audit of how much energy is currently being used by the parish, and what possibility is there to make some savings as a parish. We're running a big church here, we've got a hall, we've got a parish centre, we've got a presbytery. There'd be an awful lot of energy used to run those 4 building structures. So explore ways we could save energy, such as lighting, heating, cooling, transport, the sorts of things Philip's been talking about tonight. And try to influence our parish community to understand the moral imperative of sustainable living and making personal and communal choices and changes in our life to draw down a little bit less on the Earth's resources and be a little lighter in our footsteps. Some possible action I thought of was buying some green energy, and I noticed you were talking about that, Frank, something that you do. Installing solar panels, possibly church roof. I mean, huge structure up there. That could be a power plant sitting on top of this building here. Or solar water heater, something Father was talking about that he's done in other places and encourages his family to do, is to move away from big water heaters that are constantly heating up water all the time. Planting trees to provide natural shade and cool buildings down along our walls. That side is heat. Is a really good idea. Reduce heat transfer within buildings by filtering western sun. So that's an extension of that idea. Question mark, question mark. Like John said, I haven't got all the ideas. I'm just raising a few suggestions. So the next steps, this is where I need your support and endorsement as a group, the Lenten group. So with the support of the Lenten group, we are seeking an opportunity to ask the parish council, could we possibly have a few minutes at one of their parish meetings, council meetings, to talk about our experience here as a Lenten group and what we discussed, and to So general support for the parish to do a few things. Explore ways we can live out Pope Francis' call within Laudato Si, to care for our common home, to hear the cry of the earth, to hear the cry of the poor. It's been one of my learnings. It's not just about the earth. This has human impacts a long way away from Australia. By implementing practical actions that reduce our footprint on the earth, enable us to be a more environmentally sustainable faith community here at St. Aloysius. I seek support to undertake the support of the Parish Council to undertake an energy audit of our parish to see what options and possibilities are there for us to reduce, our impact on the earth here in our parish community. So what I'm seeking, and I'm going to finish off now, is are you happy for us to be able to say that the Lenten group, we've been exploring this for 5 weeks now, we would really love the opportunity to have a bit of a voice at one of the future Parish Council meetings to talk about what have we learnt and what we would like to hopefully see maybe the Parish Council support us exploring. We're not telling them we want solar powered or whatever. We just want the opportunity to have a look at what are we doing and is there any potential for us to be living out Laudato Si a little bit more authentically. And I think we'd like to do that as a community rather not just individually doing our little bits.
It's an example, doesn't it? Like if we're asking people to do these things in their home, we can say there's some examples in the parish, and then we think, well, we're doing that, therefore we set an example, and then we've got the right to say, well, let's all try and do our bit. So it seems to me it's passing the responsibility down the line. Oh, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that as a yes. Okay, back to you, Philip.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Just have a second to click here.
While it's doing that. Okay. Yep. Here we go. Thank you. No, I'll need the light. I need. Wow.
You right?
Yes. So let's that's it. So look, this is our closing hymn. We can't sing at the moment, but I think you can hum. Okay, is that okay? Humming's okay. You can also tap your. Okay. So this is Francis's, looking at the earth and seeing the earth and all its creatures as a window to God, and the heavens are telling the glory of God, and whole creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the field, and sing to the glory of the Lord. Sing to the sun, the bringer of day. He carries the light of the Lord in his day rays, the moon and the stars who light up the way unto your throne. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and whole creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the field, and sing to the glory of the Lord. Praise to the rain that waters our fields and blesses our crops, so all the earth yields from death unto life. Her mystery concealed springs forth in joy. heavens are telling the glory of God, and whole creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the field, and sing to the glory of the Lord. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Can I just say on behalf of the Social Justice Group that you guys coming along, and many of you come every week, and some couldn't do that. But I just want to say on behalf of the Social Justice Group that by coming along, you give us incredible encouragement. And when we have our meetings over here and we discuss a lot of these issues, we just get there's so much passion around the group and from yourselves. So I know I'm speaking for all of us that when you back us up like this, over 5 weeks, in the spirit of what's inclined and supporting Pope Francis, we're just so thrilled and we thank you for it. Even though it brings benefit to you, we hope, but you also give us enthusiasm to continue on. And now with our new subgroup for the Earth Care, for St. Aloysius Earth Care, then that's wonderful. So thank you all so much. God bless you all.
Father?
Thank you all. Thank you for participating over the last 5 weeks, as Frank's just said. To have a church with a Pope that wants us to think about the environment, wants to think about creation, and wants us to think about how we're impacting upon others, not just the environment, upon people as well, is a fantastic thing. But it's even a more fantastic thing, to a certain extent, that we have parishioners actually want to read what Pope Francis has written. There are lots of papal documents that come out, perhaps one every year, sometimes 2 a year. Often parishioners have got no interest in reading these things. So it's fantastic. So thank you for spending 5 weeks, for parishioners reading them, studying them, doing these presentations. It's an inspiration for me. Hopefully it's an inspiration for all of us to now to do something practically for individually in our own homes, but perhaps even as the parish moving forward. So thank you all. And thank you to those who participated online throughout the processes as well. So, which is fantastic. They have. Yeah. So after Easter, hopefully we can have a discussion about where we can move forward with the parish in trying to have a better understanding of the environment and what we can perhaps do practically at the parish level. So thank you for taking this effort to study, to understand, to develop that passion. Not just, I think many of you probably had that passion already, but from a theological perspective, and let's now live that out more practically as we approach Easter. All the best. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.